Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on YouTube and Facebook and will be broadcast on cable channel 10 HD 1090 following the meeting. Attendees are participating in person and via teleconference. Guests that are included in staff presentations will be excused at the conclusion of the agenda item as appropriate. And with that, we will take roll. Everyone is present with the exception of Councilmember Wiesner, who is asked to be excused, so I would entertain a motion to excuse Councilmember Wiesner from tonight's meeting.
I make a motion we excuse Councilmember Wiesner from tonight's meeting.
Second.
I have a motion. It's been seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Okay. Approval of agenda. Staff has requested two changes to the agenda as it was originally presented. The first is to better satisfy notice requirements to the Department of Commerce. Staff is requesting the postponement of the public hearing for the 2023 Comprehensive Plan amendments to April 16th. The public hearing will be removed from tonight's agenda and renoticed. The second change is to move the consent agenda item purchase authorization playground wood chips 2024 to the other items for consideration portion of the agenda. Additionally, we had a glitch in our agenda software, inadvertently changed the order of our agenda and placed mayor and council comments ahead of the consent agenda. Staff requests this be moved to its usual place after the consent agenda. Are there any other changes to the agenda items as they've been presented then? Mayor Pro Tem.
Not necessarily a change, but the third request, the flip-flopping of the consent agenda and the staff comments, I'm actually kind of digging the glitchy agenda. It's got the citizen comments period, our comments, and then into the consent agenda, and then our action items. So all the comments are in one place and all of the action items are in another place. I kind of like it the way it is.
Okay, I don't have an issue with it, so, okay.
But the, changes 1 and 2, move playground chips. Do you want it under public hearings and meetings or other items for consideration?
Julie, where did you move that to on the schedule?
Move that to other items for consideration.
So
It would
under
be
It's item F.
Item F.
9F.
9F. And, okay, do you need a motion for the
Yes.
changes?
Yes.
Okay, I move that we move item 6A to a future meeting and item 5C to 9F.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. All right, presentations. We have no proclamations, honors, and recognitions or community presentations this evening. We'll move right into citizen comment period. Citizens may comment on consent agenda items or subjects of interest not listed on the agenda at this time. Citizens will have the opportunity to comment on the remaining agenda items during the meeting as appropriate. Citizens can also visit our website prior to our meetings for methods to submit public comment or contact the city clerk, Julie Nestor, by phone or email. When submitting comments, please include your name and address. Public comment sent anonymously will be shared with the mayor and council but will not be displayed. We received several new public comments since our last regular meeting. We will display these on the screen now. All right, with that, I will turn to Julie to see if we've had anyone sign up to make public comment this evening.
Yes, Mayor, we have. The first one is Nolan Saltonstall.
All right, with that, Nolan, I will turn it over to you. Council Rules of Procedure 6.3D Citizen Comment Period states a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker for 15 minutes. Council may extend the citizen comment period by majority vote. So you've got 3 minutes, Nolan.
Awesome. Well, hi again, Council. I've spoken here before about our progress in advocating for the Community Rec Center. We've made a lot more progress since I last spoke. So far, we've passed out around 120 flyers to local businesses, and we plan to pass out a lot more. We're hitting the Highway 20 kind of route, like stopping, and we hit all of Pioneer on both sides and a bit more sections there. We also got a mod pizza date, which is pretty cool, where people can show up and raise money. So that is April 11th. You should show up, say that you're here for us, and get money, because we're trying to raise as much as we can for this project. So we have made a lot of progress. We're also thinking about maybe creating a petition of some sort, not like a in-your-face kind of thing, but more of a showing of community support for the project. And then if it ever passes to a vote or something, all those same people who signed the petition could be like, I said yes, I'll say yes again. So we have made a lot of progress. I'm happy to say that we got it out of the realm of planning. You can kind of get stuck there, but we're doing stuff, and we thank you for your support.
Thank you, Nolan. And were there specific timeframes for the Mod Pizza Day, or is it all day long?
It's all day.
Okay,
All
great.
of April 11th.
Okay, thank you. Julie, any additional public comments?
Yes, Mayor. Next on our list is Brett Widencombe.
Hi, my name is Brett, and I live in Admiral's Cove. I am a contractor here on the island. I am here on behalf of our community regarding roof permits and inspections. It is my understanding that permits and inspections are paid for by each client of our community that has a roof replacement done, and the cost is calculated into each bid from our contractors. It has come to light recently that the inspections that are being done are improper and not efficient, causing the affected community to not be fully protected with roof work that is provided. I have recently done extensive repairs on newer homes that could have been avoided if proper inspections were done. I believe the best way to resolve this is for proper inspections to be done by a knowledgeable, qualified roof inspector that fully understands the installation process for each design of roofing, tile, cedar, comp, metal, TPO, torch down. We as a community expect to get exactly what we pay for in these situations and should feel that we get what we paid for in a sense. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. That's it? Okay. So I will then turn it over one last time to say, is there anybody present that wishes to make a comment this evening that didn't sign up when they first came in? Hearing no one else who wishes to speak at this time, we'll close public comment and we'll move on to the consent agenda. Staff has presented the listed consent agenda items. All of what's? Oh, sorry. That's not on here. Yeah, that's okay. So,
Oh, well, it's back to the flipped order.
oh, that's right. Okay, sorry. We'll do the mayor's comments first. I forgot we flipped it, and it's not on my script that way. Sorry. I'm just going down my script. I'm well-trained. All right. Mayor's comments. Mayor and council retreat. The council and I met with city leadership staff for a special meeting on February 12th at the Whidbey Island campus of Skagit Valley College. Items discussed included municipal budgeting and insurance, mayor and council guidelines, and mayor and council priorities. Staff will be bringing a presentation on these overarching priorities to our February 20th workshop. I think that date's wrong. Okay, thank you. So, didn't catch that before. No, that's okay. February 28th workshop. All right, staffing updates. Interim fire chief, the city received referrals from 3 firms, conducted interviews, and will soon make a selection on an interim fire chief. The interim chief will serve for a period of 3 to 6 months while we look to fill this full-time position. Recreation Coordinator, we have completed interviews and hired a recreation coordinator for our Parks and Recreation Department. We are excited to have filled this position in time for our spring and summer seasonal activities. Advisory Board, the city has vacancies on many of its advisory boards. Please visit our website for details. Additionally, Police Chief Slowick will be reestablishing the department's Community Advisory Board. Mayor's first 100 days in office report. I am 50 days into my first 100 days as mayor of our fair city. I met with Island County Commissioner Jill Johnson last week, and we have agreed to plan a joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners and our city council. I've directed staff to coordinate scheduling. I attended the Association of Washington Cities Conference in Lacey and Olympia and met with our area representatives. Also in attendance were Councilmembers Arms, Marshall, and Wiggenstein, and City Administrator Oborn. I was pleased to join our Finance Department for their luncheon to celebrate our successful annual audit by the Washington State Auditor's Office. Many thanks to our staff for their diligence and expertise. I enjoyed a great visit with our Public Works and Engineering staff at their facility. Facility updates. Many thanks to our Public Works Operations team of Tom, Sandra, and Katie for carrying out several facilities-related projects at City Hall as we look to make the best use of our space here. Conference rooms available for city council members. City Hall has small conference areas available for council members who need a space for occasional meetings. Please see Mikhail or Sabrina to book space in advance as needed. With that, I will now call upon council for any comments that they might have. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a request, I guess. You covered one of them. I was going to ask about getting together with our county commissioners or, maybe even the Coopville Town Council or Langley. There's not a whole lot of cross-island communication, but it sounds like you're on top of that, so thank you. And I'm also wondering if it would be appropriate or feasible for council to meet with our advisory boards and commissions once a year. We had a joint workshop with the Planning Commission, and that was great. It would be nice to be able to sit down and meet with our Parks Board and Arts Commission and all of that once a year. We've got lots of boards, so that might, I don't want to meeting us to death, but maybe if there's a particularly light meeting, either for the Board or Commission or for us, we could find a way to kind of get together occasionally and chat. I would really like to be able to, be there and see all their faces and have a conversation with them and get an update once a year, if it's not too onerous. Yeah.
I think that's fair and doable.
Yeah,
So,
staff
yeah.
could consider that. That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other questions or comments from council? Councilmember Hoffmeyer.
Yeah, just real quick, it is so nice to see the would-be royalty here and Rivers Army, right? I mean, if she can share her love of community with you guys, I think the future's in good hands. So keep doing what you're doing. Nice to see you guys.
Thank you, Councilmember Hoffmeyer. Councilmember Wiggenstein.
I'll ditto what Councilmember Hoffmeyer said. Thank you, ladies, for being here. It was a pleasure to get to meet all of you. I also would like to just express my gratitude and the experience of being able to go down to Olympia for the day, a couple of days, and doing a little bit of advocacy for the city of Oak Harbor, and being able to watch our state legislative and representative bodies doing their stuff. It's kind of cool to do that. So great experience, and we did do our best to advocate for some of our needs here in Oak Harbor as well. So it's great. Yep.
Thank you, Councilmember Wiggenstein. Anyone else from council have any comments or questions? All right, hearing none, we will move on. Now I don't know where I'm supposed to go.
We're at the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Now we're back on track.
Okay, I'm not though. Where's the consent agenda? Here we go. Okay, consent agenda. We will now move to consent agenda. Staff has presented the listed consent agenda items, all of which were included in the meeting packet. As noted, staff has moved the purchase authorization for playground wood chips to later in the meeting. Are there any other objections or other changes to the remaining items on the consent agenda at this time? Hearing none, hearing none, the remaining items are approved as presented then. We're good to go. So, do I need a motion for that?
No, it's just unanimous.
Okay, so we're unanimous consent. We're moving on. Thank you. All right, now we're going into public hearings and meetings. Having removed the first public hearing on our agenda, we have one remaining public hearing item this evening. Ordinance number 1974, area-wide rezone with zoning map adoption of all planned business park and planned industrial park to industrial and accompanying text attachment to Oak Harbor Municipal Code, removing references to planned business park and planned industrial park. Say that twice. Presenting tonight will be our principal planner, Kat Kamick, to present this item.
Good evening, CACMAC Principal Planner. Short presentation on this topic. This is a topic that has been discussed with the City Council and the Planning Commission over the last couple of years. This is a follow-up action to the legislative action that was done in 2022 to reduce the land uses in our comprehensive plan and shrink all the PIP and the PBP into one district industrial zone. So this action, legislative action, was done in 2022, and we're just following it up with the zoning action. So I have a few slides to present. You don't have? Okay, that's all right. So the copies of the slides, I think, are in your packet. They're, as I said, fairly simple, and the council is aware of these topics. We can bring it up if necessary to chat more about them. So basically what we're doing is there are three zoning categories under the industrial land use category. There is the planned industrial park, there is the planned business park, and then there's the industrial zone. What this action will do is to convert the land that is zoned planned business park and planned industrial park into industrial zoning. And that way it is all one zoning classification. And just FYI, there was only one parcel that was zoned planned business park, and that was already redesignated as parks. And so we don't have actually any land that's designated for planned business park anymore in the city. We do have a few parcels that are zoned PIP, and converting them to industrial is not a big change other than removing intensive processes that these people have to go through in order to develop their property. So transferring them to the industrial zoning classification makes it easy for all these parcels to develop over time without having to follow an extensive process. The Planning Commission took a look at it. They looked at all the uses that were permitted in all these zones. They made a comparison. There were only 4 or 5 uses that didn't fit very well into the industrial category, and I think I've noted them in the slide presentations that's attached to your packet. Hotel was the only use, I think, that was permitted in the planned business park, and they talked about whether it should be permitted in the industrial. And because this is north of 16th Avenue, most of the land that's zoned industrial, the Planning Commission suggested that we do not include hotels in that zone, which is a good call because of the high noise area that these properties are subjected to. So the action today in front of City Council is twofold. One is to rezone all these properties, and the way you do it is to adopt a new zoning map with all these properties redesignated. So the new zoning map is, a copy of it is in your packet, and by approving this rezoning, you're adopting a new zoning map. The second thing that the council is requested to do is, because we're collapsing all these zoning districts into one, there's a lot of text in our zoning ordinance that refers to the planned business park and the planned industrial park. Since we're trying to collapse this and eliminating them, we want to take the references out to all these zoning districts in our text amendment. So attached is also the strikeout version of all the text amendments that we recommend that the City Council adopts, so that we remove all these references to the planned business park and planned industrial park and convert them into industrial. So those are the two actions in front of you, and that's what city staff is recommending that the council do tonight. I will be happy to answer any questions or comments that you have.
Great, CAC, thank you so much. At this time, I will open the public hearing, and I will turn to our city clerk to make sure that we have not received any public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. We received no comments from the public.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will then reach out to our audience with us tonight to see if they have any comments that they would like to make on this issue before we proceed. All right, hearing none, I will close the public hearing and call upon council for their questions and comments. Yes, Councilmember Hoffmeyer.
Yeah, just real quick, CAC, it's awesome having you up here in person. You know, thank you, along the way through all this, thank you for educating all of us. And I think when it comes to planning and development, gosh, we have to be one of the more educated councils on it. Thank you. Thanks for being such a good teacher on it. And yes, we've seen this all before, so thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Hoffmeyer. Anyone else that has any comments or questions on this matter?
Mayor?
Hold on one second. Councilmember, hold on.
Okay.
Go ahead, City
Just
Administrator.
before you make the motion, I recommend that you add in there that you're approving the ordinance 1974 to the motion. That was inadvertently left out.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Stuckey.
I was going to make the motion, but now you threw me off. Where do you want me to put that?
Right at the beginning. Motion to approve ordinance 1974 and to adopt, and then read it as is.
I move to adopt ordinance number 1974, approving
And adopt.
and adopt the revised zoning map reclassifying all PIP and PBP zone properties to 1? Industrial zoning, and adopt the text amendments to remove all references to PIP and PBP and combine the uses into the industrial zone in OHMC 19-20.1050 permitted use table. That was a tricky one.
All right, I have a motion.
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Heisen. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on, we have no ordinances and resolutions, and we have no contracts and agreements. We will go on to other items for consideration. First being 9A, Fire Department Assistance to Firefighter Grant Request. Introducing the grant administrator, Ms. Wendy Horn, to present.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Wendy Horn, the grants administrator. See if this is going to work. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Federal Emergency Management Agency's grant, the assistance to firefighters. Each year, the FEMA puts together a list of high priority items. And this year, they have chosen portable P25 compliant radios, thermal imaging cameras, hoses, nozzles, appliances, hand tools, and RIT packs. The Oak Harbor Fire Department would like to apply for this grant, and they would like to request funding for 24 portable P25 compliant radios. The request also will include the charging units, batteries, accessory kits, and programming services. And you may be aware that the P25 compliant radios are going to be mandated by 2030, so everyone is going to have to replace their radios. So the safety and operational benefits of these radios include additional repeater tones, more frequencies, more channels, life-saving panic buttons, GPS enabled, also Wi-Fi enabled. And ultimately what this is going to do is it's going to provide everyone who responds to a call with the same technology, which also will then improve communication between all responders. It's going to obviously replace our outdated equipment, and it will lower the maintenance costs. Currently, when a radio has to get sent out, it's approximately $200 and about 2 weeks of time. While that doesn't sound like a lot, it's going to get more expensive as time goes on, just because the older radios, the repairs and the parts are becoming more scarce. The firmware is not being updated, so eventually they're just going to become, they will need to be replaced at some point. So what are we asking for? The grant request is for $107,910. There is a 10% match with this grant, so that would be $11,990, and the total project cost is $119,900. These radios are expensive. All in, just the radio itself is about $4,000, and then the additional chargers, accessory equipment, the software, whatnot, is an additional $600 per radio, and when you add tax and shipping, that's how we got up to this number. Unfortunately, it's not budgeted this year, but we do have this opportunity for a grant, so we're requesting approval by the council tonight. And the grant application is due March 8th. The awards won't be made until September, but we would like to apply for that. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. We also have Acting Chief Buxton here, who can answer the hard questions.
All right, Julie, with that, I will turn to you to make sure that we have not received any public comment from the public on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. We received no public comment.
No worries. All right, and with that, I will turn it over to the public present here tonight to see if there is anyone that is with us that would like to offer any public comment on this issue. Hearing none, I will call upon council for their questions and comments. Yes, Councilmember Stuckey? Sorry.
I'll fire away a question here. With these radios, you said 2030, they're going to have to be replaced. That's mandated. Is this a grant that kind of comes up every year?
It does.
Would it make sense to wait a little bit because it's 2024, you know, and if those, would it make sense to wait a little while to apply for this grant because we may not get it later on if we've got it now?
I'll let you answer that question.
Well, we've put in for this grant in the past, and every fire department in the United States puts in for this thing, and we have not gotten it yet. So if we get it this year, we're going to be very fortunate. If we get it next year, we'll be fortunate. We hope that we get it at all. So I don't think we want to pass on this opportunity. It doesn't hurt to put in. The radios we're using right now are HD 1250s, and we bought those in 2001, 2002, and 2003 to replace our older radios. So they do last quite a while. They're not going to break down before we're required to have them, but we do have to go digital by 2030. So I would imagine in 6 years these radios are going to be more expensive. So if we're going to try to save the $11,000 now, we may end up paying the whole thing later.
So that 10-year lifespan, that's on average, or is that you have to replace them every 10
I believe that's a warranty.
years?
Like I said, the radios that we're using right
Sure.
now, we started replacing them back in the early 2000s, and they've lasted 24 years. We've replaced a few along the way because they've gotten broken, dropped off a ladder or whatever. But for the most part, our whole fleet, we've got 22, 23-year-old radios.
So is the thought process if we don't get the grant this year, we just keep trying to get that grant between now? It doesn't mean we're just going to buy these radios if we don't get the grant this year.
Tell you, if we can get the grant now, we're going to be fortunate.
Gotcha. Understand. Thank you.
I'd also just like to point out too that FEMA chooses priority equipment each year. So this just happens to be a year that they're prioritizing those radios, and they're just the portable ones. We also have the mobiles that go in the vehicles, but it's an opportunity that's available this year. It may not be available next year.
Thank you, Councilmember Stuckey. Mayor Pro Tem Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. Because this is unbudgeted, where would the 12K matching come from?
That would come from the general fund.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve. Mayor Pro Tem.
I move to authorize the mayor to approve the FEMA Assistance to Firefighters grant request for P25 compliant portable radio replacements.
Second.
We have a motion. It has been seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Moving on to the Marina Dredging Project, adoption of Marina Dredging Feasibility Plan. With us tonight is Harbor Master Chris Sublett, City Engineer Alex Warner, and Project Manager Brett Arvidsson to present the item.
Good evening, Council. I'm Brett Arvidsson. I'm the project manager on this project, and we're here to talk about our City of Oak Harbor Marina Dredging Project. Oops. Here we go. To get some background, the Oak Harbor Marina requires dredging on a periodic basis. The marina was last dredged in 2010, 2011. We do have some areas that are getting somewhat shallow. In 2010, 2011, the marina wasn't dredged completely, so there are areas under basically B, C, and D dock that weren't dredged in the last bout. Our goal here is to maintain a city asset. This is an ongoing activity. I'll talk more about this later. This work will maintain depths for the next 10 to 13 years. This project, while tonight we're focused on the dredging project, this is also a first steps towards future reconfiguration work. We do not include the full reconfiguration study within this project here, but we have a couple isolated tasks that we're going to add into this project, which I'll talk about later. Talk about the whys. What we do is have this natural sedimentation going on. In 2011, we did a survey after we dredged it. This is the map. So blue areas and green areas are the areas that are fairly deep, and the yellow to orange to red are the areas that were shallow. If you can see under, if I can show the map here, you can see under these areas here, they're yellow. So that's the areas we failed to dredge in the last bout. Last April, we did another survey of the marina. In 10 years, this has been 12 years, and you can see that a lot more of blue is turned to yellow and orange. We have had accumulations. Based on that, we were able to develop a sedimentation model, and basically we're seeing from 1 to 2 feet of sedimentation over the last 12 years. So it's about an inch a year, depending on the area. The areas that were sedimentation are actually areas we dredged because we dug a hole, nature wants to fill it. So the slower sedimentation is in the areas we didn't dredge, but they're getting to be difficult. If we don't dredge, that process is going to continue, and we're going to lose functionality in a lot of our docks, especially in the B and C areas. They're at operational depth now, and they're not going to get any better. So we did, as part of the study, did some alternatives to see what is the range of alternatives we could do to make this work. And our first alternative was to dredge it all. We just said, okay, we're going to dredge the marina to the maximum amount allowed by our lease permit. And most of these areas would be done, excuse me, wrong button. Most of these areas would be done to the 14-foot, but a couple areas up here would, back one more here. A couple of these areas here would be dredged to lesser depth, excuse me. Our second alternative was pretty much the same, except we are not going to dredge the fairways between E and F dock. These areas here would not be dredged. It does reduce the yardage we have to remove substantially, but it does cause us some operational issues in the fact that in 2033, in very low water years, we would not be able to use those for deeper boats, so the boats would have to wait to the next high tide. Alternative 3 is not doing the fairway. Then we also reduced the dredging amounts in here by a couple feet, so we're not getting it down to full depth, and that again will be problematic in 10 years because we'll start seeing some of those areas we dredged out starting to be the point where we can't use them anymore. And we looked at alternative 4, which was sort of offshoot of alternative 3 where we just decided to remove a dock from the options and even potentially remove it, though that didn't turn out to be cost effective. The cost of removing it plus less the cost of the mitigation credits, I'll talk more about those in a minute, were a wash. So we may decide not to dredge underneath it. So when you're looking at the alternatives, alternative 1 does provide the best long-term outcome. We'll have a very maintainable, in 10 years, the marina would be fully operational. We wouldn't have any, say, shallow areas to worry about. It also allows us to do potentially a lesser dredge in 10 years and extend the life. But fortunately, that one is also costing $11.77 million. Alternative 2 is somewhat the same outcome as alternative 1, except, like I say, in the fairways, we'll have difficulties there. It does reduce the operational parts of it. This would bring that cost, but that reducing the fairways will end up at a total cost of $10.26 million. Alternative 3, well, not have the problems in the fairways, but we start having problems under the B, C, and D docks. Excuse me. I have areas that would be in 10 years. We're going to have to get back and do a much more extensive dredging to make it usable again. But that alternative is $9.50 million. And alternative 1 gives the same operational. We'd lose the functionality of a dock. It'd be turned into basically a kayak dock or something like that. And that's going to come up at a cost of $9.26 million. We did, like I say, we have an ongoing reconfiguration study going on, looking at making larger slip sizes in the marina. Right now, there's a marketing plan that's gone on that suggests that our slip mix is trending towards smaller boats, and the marketplace is trending towards larger boats. So we are looking at reconfiguring the marina to handle those larger boats. We are still in the process of doing that study, and that'll be going on for the next year. But one of the low-hanging fruit coming out of that study was that B and D docks, converting them to side moorage, would allow us to moor larger boats in addition to our existing population. And to me, that was, to us, it looked like a very easy alternative to implement. It also gave us mitigation credits in the permitting world. So we did include the cost of that, of those side ties into the alternatives. Here's showing B dock and D dock would be then converted to side tie right here where these red areas are. Now, talking about permitting, this is, I've talked about this in the past, this is a very extensive process we have to go through. We have to obtain federal permits from the Corps of Engineers, which requires a Fish and Wildlife consultation. And with the NOAA fisheries right now, and the Endangered Species Act in the Puget Sound, that's going to be problematic. We also need to get state permits from DNR, State and Fish and Wildlife. We also have the marina lease, which has requirements attached to it. We also require local permits such as SEPA, shoreline, building and fire, a whole bunch of other ones. So it is pretty permit intensive. These permits are going to take about 2 years to get, so we just don't go down and get them. So right now, once we submit them, it's an 18-month wait. So, and that's optimistic. It's the permit requirements now. The Fish and Wildlife, the mitigation requirements were put in place in 2019 by NOAA Fisheries, and that's a highly dynamic area. It's changing a lot. They're coming up with these rules, and they haven't quite figured out how to implement them yet. So each permit is sort of a negotiation. One thing we learned today is if we go in, we'll probably be the first maintenance permit to come in under these under the new guidelines. So that'll add some excitement to the process also. As I say, I'm going to talk a little more about mitigation, but our goal is to only keep the mitigation within the city and not purchase outside mitigation credits if possible. One thing I do want to note is this is a maintenance project, and the mitigation requirements are much lower though lower is a relative, to a new project. So if we wanted to put in a breakwater or something like that, the mitigation is a much higher level and much more costly. So we're talking about mitigation. Like I say, this has been in effect since 2019. It's basically to offset the negative impacts of marine construction, such as turbidity, loss of habitat, loss of light, those type of things. Mitigation is applied in a variety of ways. There's a complex spreadsheet you use for it. Mainly, you get credits for removing, disposing of existing debris or pollutants. Creosote piles are a big one. Those barges we have sunk on the south side of the marina for way back when are another one. Removal of the marina roofs down there, the boat roofs, those are a huge credit for us. You know, restoring habitat like along the beach or something like that is a credit. We also can purchase mitigation credits. There are banks and projects that you can purchase them from. They're running about $1,500 a credit right now. Mitigation that do impact the project. They're adding a lot of cost to this, probably in the range of 20% of our project cost is actually mitigation. So we're trying to put that cost back into the marina, removing roofs that we have to remove anyway, changing out things that are a problem for us are much better uses of our money rather than buying credits elsewhere. It does lead to additional design and planning costs. Like I say, working with NOAA Fisheries is going to be exciting, and how we package that together when we go into the permitting phase is going to be interesting. And unfortunately, it does give us potential for delays. Like I say, our approach is to put the credits back into our facilities as much as possible. And where our facilities are within the city itself as much as possible. Talking about dredging alternatives, you know, this is a very expensive project, and the marina itself is an enterprise fund. Right now, we see the financial model has not been fully articulated yet. We see the money's coming from a variety of sources, which include grants. We already have one grant in hand for now for $1 million. Cash reserves or capital savings, revenue bonds. Debt is probably going to be a part of the project. And the marina revenues, will fund the cash and the debt service. We do have one piece of good news that we do have a bond that's retiring here pretty soon that will free up some revenue for new debt service, but it probably won't be sufficient for the total amount we'll need. But as we go through the project, we have several years, and the evaluation and the rate impacts will occur as the project progresses, and it'll be a function of the final decisions we make. We did do some public comment on this project. We did present the project to the Marina Board, and we did hold an open house last month and here in City Hall. And the Marina Board supported moving forward with Alternative 1. They feel that's the most viable for the marina. We did have an open house, which we had 47 citizens attend. I can't say every conversation or every comment we had, but give some major themes. Mostly the comments we heard supported the marina and felt it benefited the city. We did receive many comments regarding dredging of the main channel approaching the marina, which is outside the scope of this project. Our project is limited to just the marina itself. We don't have any jurisdiction over the channel, actually. We heard many stories regarding boats grounding during low tide events, which kind of substantiated our sedimentation modeling. And the public seemed to support moving forward with the most expansive alternative in the dredging, but we did hear concerns about the effect on marina rates. Anyway, moving forward, we want to, the staff recommends moving forward with Alternative 1 as the preferred option. We think it's the most flexible for what we want to do, get us in a good position with permits, and also gives us the flexibility to adjust our project as we move along. When it allows us to dredge areas neglected during the 2010 dredging, those are our biggest priority right now, because that's where we're seeing the groundings occur at this time. Also, alternative one would reduce the cost of the cycle of dredging, because we'll be ahead, now we're behind, so we're paying more to catch up. We'll be ahead more, and we have the potential of, these permits are 10 years, of doing a minor dredging prior to the permit expiring and extending the life of our dredging period. It also maximizes the operational functionality of the marina. We won't have to worry about somebody going aground during a low tide event. It also provides the maximum coverage for in the permit process, and allows us to keep using that permit process. It's easy to permit more than do less, but it's not easy. If we do less and want to do more, we have to start the permit process over again. So it gives us the maximum flexibility in moving forward with that. And frankly, alternative one can be scaled back relatively simply in the event that we have financial or regulatory restrictions in the project. So as we move forward, if we do feel that we have to make some restrictions due to finances, it's very easy to change at this point, and it won't impact the project. So our next steps, with adoption of the City of Oak Harbor Marina Dredging Feasibility Plan, we'll begin the preliminary design and permitting phases. A contract amendment with Moffett Nickel will be presented at a future council meeting. The permit applications will be prepared and submitted in this summer, and we'll start that clock ticking. And the project is targeted for the 26-27 in-water window. We're only allowed to do this type of dredging from mid-October to mid-February, so hitting an in-water window is very critical to us. So by the time we get the permits, go through the bidding and award phases, we'll be in time for that. If things go really well, we might be able to move it up a year, but right now I would say no. So anyway, we do have a recommendation to move that the City Council adopt the City of Oak Harbor Marina Dredging Feasibility Study with Alternative 1 as the preferred option. Questions?
Great, thank you, Brett. So at this time, I will confirm with our city clerk, Julie Nestor, that we have not received any public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No comment was received from the public.
Great, thank you. And at this time, I will open it up to those present. Is there anyone present that would like to make a comment on this issue at this time? Hearing none, I will turn it over to council for their questions and comments at this time. Councilmember Stuckey.
I'm dredging these big numbers. Couple questions, and it maybe was in here and I missed it. How much is the permit? Is there a cost for these permits?
The permitting, the permit itself is the cost of applying for the permit, but there's a cost of preparing the permit. So that's in the design fee that Moffett and Nickel will do that. Generally, the permitting is going to run us like $30,000 to $40,000 in permit fees. But it is it's more preparing the permit and negotiating with the various agencies involved.
Sure. Because I understand, 2 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And obviously we want to get on that part sooner rather than later. But the part that makes me nervous is, of course, figuring out the funding sources as we go along. I'd rather that be known ahead of time than as we're getting in this. But we can figure that out over the next 2 years. Yeah. When you say it can be scaled back in the case that finance become an issue, can you possibly attach a dollar amount to that, what that means?
If you look at the alternatives we have, we went from 11.77 down to 9.26 or 9.5, can't remember. That is the range. Anything less than that, we certainly can scale. That's what happened in the last dredging. But we're going to start seeing reductions in the operability and navigability of our marina. So yeah, we could scale it back, but then we're going to see impact. So this study kind of stopped at, this is the minimum level of service that we want to provide. But if you want to go back, and the first things we would do is scale back, like taking out the fairway, that's a low impact, then reducing the depths. Anything less than that, then we're going to start having making some trade-offs in our operations.
Chris, did you want to add something to that?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. I think that when we start talking about scaling back, we're only pushing the problem out to future years. That's why we're in the shape we're in now. That's why it's so expensive. We have to remember that in 2010, 2011, only about 50% of the marina was dredged. The 50% that was dredged is in fairly good shape. It's the part that wasn't dredged that we're paying for now, where it's silted in and the boats are sitting on the bottom. And unfortunately, the low tides are right in the middle of summer when people want to use their boats. They're in the daytime. So it really affects how people can use the marina and how they can use their boats. So Brett and I are pretty committed to going towards option one, or that option, so that in the future, we're not in this situation. So we either pay now and get the whole thing done, or we pay a little now and we're going to pay a whole lot more in the future, because some of those areas will not have been dredged for upwards of 30 years at that point. There'll be mountains and hills underneath the water.
Sure. That bond, that debt service that's being freed up, how much was that originally for?
The current one was refinanced 2 or 3 years ago, Mr. Goldman, 2 years ago?
Yeah, about 2.5 to 3 years ago.
And that one was for about $4 or $5 million that was left. The total bond that we originally...
Hello. The refunding bond was for about $1.522 million.
That's right.
We've made about, looking here, we've made 3 payments. We have 2 payments left. The bond will be paid off. The refunding bond will be paid off on December 1st, 2025.
And the original bond was...
The original bond was $2.5 million.
And the goal here is really to get the grant funding, because we did do the study on the rate. The rate can't even take the 8 million, maybe 7 million is what we kind of estimated the rate would do. So we're really, to keep this marina open, we need to be really aggressive on doing the grant funding and getting some requests there. We did have a potential, but it looks like we struggle because we're not a commercial. There's more grants available, so we're more recreational, but we'll certainly not give up and look for grant funding that we can get. And so the idea here is, what do we want to study right now? And it makes more sense, even though it's more money to study more, let's do the permit for the whole amount here, and then we can scale back. But really, ultimately, we really need to put as much as we can onto the rate, but then supplement it with grants.
Sure, yeah, grants would definitely be ideal. And the last question I have is, I noticed that contains, the estimate contains a 25% contingency, which is...
That's normal this stage. We call it
Sure.
an order of magnitude estimate because, at this level, we don't have the detailed design that we can start narrowing down the inconsistencies. So at this feasibility level study, we call it order of magnitude. It's usually plus 50, minus 30% accuracy range. So we do carry contingency, but as the project progresses, we start reducing that contingency.
Well, I guess my last question, I guess you touched on, is how confident are we about these numbers? I mean, because 2 years from now, who knows?
Yeah, and that's, it's an engineering estimate. We have a professional firm working for us. We actually did check some of the costs. We had we had American Construction out helping us at the time we were doing these estimates, and they actually made one of their estimators available to us to help us with looking at some of it. So we're feeling as good as we can about this. Unfortunately, engineers sometimes buy the project, but we're trying to approach this and keep it flexible. And if we all of a sudden see a market surge or something, marine construction is getting more expensive, not less expensive, just because of the things you have to do in the water. But again, that's we do have a professional firm, and we're using professional standards for it.
Sure. We're not shooting from the hip. I mean,
No.
we're obviously digging into this.
Well,
Okay.
actually, I feel more better about these numbers because we did have a contractor willing to sit down and go through it with us and spend a day with us going through the numbers. So that's a luxury we don't always have.
Okay. That's what I have. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Councilmember Stuckey. So just to follow up to Councilmember Stuckey's question, in those estimates, are there inflationary adjustments allocated in there, since we know the permitting is going to take 2 years?
No, Right now, we do not carry a lot of inflationary adjustments at this level estimate. As we start to move forward to it, then we'll start dealing with we call it mid-construction estimates.
Okay, I just think that was helping with what he was getting at, though. So, any other questions or comments from council at this time? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion on this issue. Councilmember Marshall. I always have a problem with your name.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we adopt the City of Oak Harbor dredging feasibility study with alternative 1 as a preferred option.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Councilmember Marshall and Councilmember Wittgenstein. Councilmember Hopmeyer.
This is obnoxious, but can I have like 2 minutes?
Sure.
Thank you.
We're taking a 2-minute break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Back and ready to go. We're moving on to the next issue, which is Washington City's Insurance Authority. And speaking to us about this tonight is Parks and Rec Director Brian Smith.
Good evening, Council. So before you tonight is a grant request for Washington City's Insurance Authority. They offer a risk reduction mitigation grant program, and their goals are to protect and maintain financial stability and foster sound risk management practices and contain or manage adverse loss exposure. The city has applied for and received this grant in the past. In 2022, the Streets Division received this grant to fix sidewalks as a means to mitigate tripping and falling hazards. And in 2018, the city received this grant to purchase and install collapsible event bollards for special events to improve safety at large for public outdoor events. So the Parks and Recreation Department, in conjunction with the Police Department, would like to apply for this grant to purchase and install 3 security cameras at Fort Nugent Park. Fort Nugent houses a lot of various activities. It has a lot of risk exposure as well. We have a number of vandalism events that happen there. Citywide, we've spent approximately $20,000 in the last year addressing vandalism issues. Fort Nugent Park sees almost a weekly event there. And so this was targeted as our first go-to for additional security mitigation efforts. The project is done in 3 phases, with the first phase being the cameras housed at the concession and restrooms location. Second phase would put additional cameras pointed the playground and the shelter. And third phase would provide live streaming capabilities for police department to monitor the park. We're requesting $23,591 for the first phase of this project. The grant closes on March 7th. And our motion is to have the mayor approve authorizing the application for the WCIA Risk Reduction Grant Program for $23,591. And we've been working with Gateway Controls for that estimate, and I'm happy to answer questions. We have Wendy Horn, who's available, as well as Chief Stolick.
Great, thank you. With that, I will turn it over to our city clerk, Julie Nestor, to confirm that we received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No comments have been received.
Great, thank you. And I will now invite anyone that is with us tonight that wishes to make public comment on this issue. Hearing none, I will entertain questions and comments from our city council. Hearing none, oh, yes, Mayor Pro Tem Heisen.
It's in the packet what the different phases of the project are, but for the people watching online or at home that don't have the packet in front of them, would you mind like giving us a brief synopsis of the three phases?
Yeah, let me go back to that slide here. So in phase one, we'll put 3 security cameras at the concessions and restrooms area. And then in phase 2, we'll add cameras for the playground and shelter. And in phase 3, provides that live streaming capability for the police department to do active monitoring of the park.
Gotcha. So the live streaming won't be active until every camera is in place?
Correct.
That'll be the last thing? Okay. So until the live stream is activated, it's just a matter of going back through the footage to
Right,
find
which is how most of our security cameras in the city, if there is an event, the police go back and do their investigation, look at the timestamps of when those events occurred to see if they can identify a suspect.
And were the locations prioritized based on the level of vandalism?
Right, where we see the most, need.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I think this is a great idea. My sister coaches soccer, spends a lot of time at Fort Nugent Park, and boy, some of the shenanigans that I've heard about are just intense.
Yeah,
So if we're
especially
spending the money anyway, might as well be on.
Especially in the shoulder season with the football leagues, where it gets darker earlier, and we have people requesting for us to keep the restrooms open a little later. We don't have good lighting in that park, and so it's a little more of a security issue at this park than some of the others with the activities that we do there.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah, I support. Good luck.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Heisen. Councilmember Wittgenstein.
There's a couple of questions. One, do we have an idea what the cost of each phase is? Because you indicated that the cost listed is the first phase. And the second part of that is there any matching?
There is not a match for this one, I believe. And then I think we did get some estimates for the other phases. I don't have that information with me, but I can provide that to you.
Okay, I see it.
Do you
Thank
have
you.
that, Tom?
I found it.
All right, Councilmember Stuckey.
I guess it's more of a question for our chief here. So, graffiti, it's an issue in our town lately. I know I carry a graffiti kit in my trunk, and people tell me when it's there, and I'd say I'm happy to clean it up. I'm willing to, but I'd prefer not to and not have the graffiti issue, of course. Do you get the impression when it comes to things like graffiti, is it a couple of people doing it that once they're caught, this is no longer an issue, or is it just a lot of random hooliganism, for lack of a better term?
Hi, Chief Slowick, Police Department. So, yes, it's mostly a group of kids that we can typically track and eventually find or observe on a surveillance camera doing the graffiti, and then we're able to make an arrest.
So you said, do we know that it's a group of kids? Like, is this?
It always changes, but from past experience.
Sure.
And let's just talk about past events this last year. Most cases, they were teenage males.
I mean, when you see the same tag over and over again, you kind of assume it's the same person or individual. So, well, here's hoping we can get that taken care of. I know you guys are doing all you can, but can we not keep costing our city money with cleanup? So let's be better, folks.
I will add, it's not just the graffiti up there. We get a lot of damage
Sure.
inside the bathrooms, and the cameras are not in the bathrooms. They're on the outside areas for privacy reasons, but the cameras will help a lot in identifying people that are in the area.
I just want our funds to go towards improvements, not fixing things. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Stuckey. Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, do you anticipate going after a grant for phases 2 and 3 as well?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. That's all.
All right, any other questions or comments from council? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the mayor authorizing the application for the WCIA Risk Reduction Grant Program.
Second.
We have a motion as was presented. We have a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Moving on to Police Department, Small Town Rural Tribal Body Worn Camera Grant Application Approval. Presenting tonight will be our Police Chief Tony Slowick and Grants Administrator Wendy Horn to present.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Chief Slowick, Police Department. So tonight I'll be presenting the Department of Justice Small Rural Tribal Body Worn Camera Micro Grant Application. Oh, there we go. So this application is through the Bureau of Justice Assistance. It's a funding and technical support grant. It's a micro grant, so it's for agencies under 50 commissioned officers, or rural communities, or federal recognized tribal agencies. And it's to implement or enhance our body-worn camera program. So currently we do have a body-worn camera program. It's been operating for a little over 3 years now. This grant provides us the ability to replace equipment. So we're talking about camera mounting equipment, docking and charging, wiring and antennas, licensing fees, support software, specifically redaction and transcribing software. So this will allow us to participate in, participate in this grant. The deliverables are, we have to participate in a webinar, monthly reporting of the grant, body-worn camera policy development, which we already have in place, and then purchase body-worn cameras and other equipment or services. So the request is for $30,804. It's not currently budgeted. There is a one-for-one match, however, it could be in-kind match, so we plan on doing the in-kind match. The items would be purchasing body-worn cameras for $15,804, and then redaction software for $15,000. So the body-worn camera program really is, has really enhanced our officer safety. The prosecutors really enjoy it. It has reduced our officer complaints and being able to show anybody coming into the police department to say, hey, you know, this officer talked disrespectful, or I didn't like the way things happened, or this officer said one thing and the officer said they didn't. We're able to go back with citizens and watch those body cameras, and it's something that we definitely want to continue at the department and make sure that we have the best equipment possible. So the deadline for this grant is March 4th, 2024. And the recommended motion is to move to authorize the mayor to approve the application to U.S. Department of Justice for Small Rural Tribal Body-Worn Camera Grant Program. Any questions?
At this time, I will look to Julie, our city clerk, and verify that we've received no public comment.
That's correct, Mayor. No comments have been received from the public.
Great, thank you. And I will now turn it over to those present with us tonight to see if anyone wishes to make public comment on this matter. Hearing none, I will call upon council for their questions and comments, but before I do, I have a question. What does the in-kind match mean?
Means that I can take services that we do within the department that have to deal with body-worn cameras, so training, redaction of software, those type of things, take that amount of time spent or hourly rate for that employee and use that as the one-for-one match. So I don't actually have to pay anything out, or the city doesn't have to pay anything out. We can justify our contribution by services rendered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
With that, any other questions or comments from council? Councilmember Wittgenstein.
What are the life expectancies on this equipment? How often do we have to be replacing? You say a current system's about 3 years old or been active for about that long, or are these compatible with that?
Yeah,
all
so-
the way across the board? And
Yeah,
cool.
all great questions. So currently, we used Axon body cameras. That is probably the leading technology or system that's out there in law enforcement. It offers us the ability to do cloud-based storage that is CJIS compliant or criminal justice compliant. The cameras themselves come with a 1-year warranty. The batteries in the cameras they last for about a 12-hour shift, but after using them for about 2 years, we need to replace the batteries. What we're finding is that the vendor is unable to replace the batteries about 2.5 years into owning the camera. The cameras themselves cost about $800 a piece, and they were changing the batteries for free, but now that they're not even changing our batteries. So we're at a point where we just need to refresh all of our equipment. If we were to go to a contract with the vendor and do like a 5-year contract where it renews and replaces equipment all the time, that's about $120,000 over 5 years. So us buying the equipment ourselves, looking for grant options, we can buy 30 body cameras, buy the licensing, and buy a 3-year warranty for about $32,000, $40,000. So.
Thank you, Councilmember Wittgenstein. Anyone else with any questions? Councilmember Stuckey.
I was just going to make the motion. I move to authorize the mayor to approve the application to U.S. Department of Justice for the Small Rural Tribal Body-Worn Camera Grant Program.
Second.
We have a motion as presented and seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Chief Slowick. All right, moving on to our next item, purchase of Song of the Salish Sea mural. It is? No, this is E and then F, right? Did we? Okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. Purchase of the Song of the Salish Sea mural. Introduction by Brian Smith, our Parks and Rec Director.
Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. So this mural is a proposal by the Arts Commission for purchase. It's done by artists Nick and Kendall Mon, and who are visual artists residing in Port Townsend. The Mons have collaborated on murals and paintings all around the Pacific Northwest. Their work pays homage to the spirited nature and beauty and sense of wonder found in the surrounding areas. Nick has exhibited his gallery work in both solo and group shows around the world. The mural is a 20 by 4 foot acrylics on wood panel, and it's an expression of the interwoven connections between the natural world and in the Puget Sound and the Salish Sea. There you go. Yeah, going down. Thanks, Tim. You see in the mural plants such as Oregon grape, cedar trees, devil's club, foxglove, nettle, etc., weave their way through a landscape flanked by 2 black-tailed deer. A bald eagle anchors the centerpiece of the mural, symbolizing the heart of the landscape, a bridge between sky and water. An orca leaps from the water. Going to go down to the next one. Show you a little bit of detail of the mural. This is the center panel. It's a celebration of beauty, wonder, and joy in regard to the island, to the land and waters of our area. Plants, such as was mentioned, are flanked by 2 black-tailed deer. Bald eagle anchors the centerpiece of the mural, symbolizing the heart of the landscape. And go to the next one there, Tim. There you see the deer. And the overall essence of the piece celebrates a harmony, or symphonic-like vision that highlights the interconnected crown jewels of nature in the sea, a timeless portal into what's truly local. So this art piece is in a gallery that is currently, where it's being displayed, is currently being moved to a smaller venue. They're not able to fit the piece into the new venue, and so that's why the opportunity to be able to purchase it has come up. The piece is $10,000. Funding for the expense will come from Fund 115 Creative Arts Fund. If approved, staff will include this amount in the mid-year 2024 budget amendment for council approval. There is a little bit of a time constraint on the purchase of this because of the move of the gallery. That's why we've brought it to council now. Just for your reference, currently we have a fund balance of just under $300,000 in the Creative Arts Fund. And happy to answer any questions, and we also have a member of our Arts Commission here to make any comments.
Thanks, Brian. So at this time, I will turn to our city clerk and verify that we have not received any public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No comments have been received.
Great.
I'm so sorry. I just made this slide this afternoon. We did receive a comment from Cynthia Mason of the Arts Commission.
Great, thank you. All right, and I would now invite anyone that is with us here this evening that would like to make comment on this issue. This is the time if you would like to stand up and comment. Hearing no comments, I will... Huh?
She said she'll wait for the questions.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Now I will call upon council for comment or questions on this item. Yes, Councilmember Hopmeyer.
Yeah, I think one thing we've heard often from the community is, they want art that is representative of the area, or art that can mean something. It seems like this checks those boxes. And I think you kind of spoke to why this particular case is urgent. So I guess my only question is, where would it be displayed, and how would the public have access to view it, et cetera?
Yeah, and I think we would look for council's thoughts on that. Two locations that were suggested was here in council chambers, and the other on that wall there. And the other location is at the interpretive center.
Well, in reading that public comment there, I can certainly agree with that. But in this instance here, I would support this.
Thank you, Councilmember Hoffmeyer. Councilmember Wittgenstein.
Just more of a technical question. What's the cost of installation on this? Do we have an idea? I mean, we'll do it ourselves, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we'll do it in-house.
But there's in-house costs as well, right? Okay.
Yeah, usually Tom is a Diet Coke, and we'll have a little bit. we'll probably have an interfund transfer.
So Therese, if you want to comment, you can step up to the podium, please.
Therese Kingsbury, the Arts Commission, 8th year. The artists live in Port Townsend. The gallery that has it currently is on Bainbridge Island. They said that they would go to Bainbridge Island, collect the art, and deliver it to us on our schedule. He doesn't want to install it, but he will coach whoever uses the screw gun to put it on the wall. And then if it's here, it is going to be available for everybody to see it. And then when we're really utilizing the interpretive center all the time, it might be a good move in the future, but it is 4 panels and it is movable. Any more questions?
Great, thank you. That's it? All right, any other questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember Marshall.
So, Teresa, I mentioned this to you, and Brian, I'm gonna ask the same thing. Cynthia mentioned it in her public comment is the art plan, right? We're spending money for this comprehensive art plan. How does this fit within the art plan? It seems reactionary. I mean, I'll just be honest. And I understand that there's kind of an urgency. They're selling, or they're having to do this, but I don't want to kind of get into this mentality of, well, it's available, so we're just going to get it if it doesn't fit within what we're trying to do comprehensively as an art plan. And so where are we at with the establishment of that art plan, and how does this piece in particular fit within that plan?
Yeah, so the art plan comes to council for a work session, this coming month. And we have solicited proposals for conducting of that and made a selection based off of qualifications. So that art plan, if approved by council, we would go through that process and that would be adopted probably later this year, probably early fall. We'd like to try and get it done as soon as possible just to coincide with the budgeting season. So, and you are right, it is a little bit reactionary just because of the timing of the closure of the gallery. It's either we move now or we lose the opportunity, and the Art Commission feels that this is a significant enough piece of local art. It would be in the city's interest to procure it. And Therese can speak a little more to that. But until we have that art plan in place, which really will inform us on process and procedures for call for artists and procurement of art, and placemaking opportunities and where those locations are, and what we want to put forth as the character of the community. You know, all artwork is subjective. Some people love it, some people hate it. I think if it's controversial, that means it's a good piece of art. But council ultimately will be the deciding voice of the community for how, you know, what kind of art do we want to place, and, you know, as we do those things, we'll bring it to council for consideration.
And how did we come up with the number 10,000? I mean, was this the asking price? Was this a price that we offered? I mean, I don't know how to value art, right? And so how do we come up with a price tag of $10,000?
I inquired, and that was the asking price. And I mean, with all salespeople, we've got other people interested, but the deadline of moving it and shuttering it or finding a home for it. And one of the things we want to accomplish on the Arts Commission is inclusion and diversity, and we don't really have a lot of diversity currently in our community, and this is a great big step towards that, if that makes sense.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Marshall. Anything else? Any other questions or comments from council? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion on this item. Councilmember Wittgenstein.
I move to approve authorized use of the Creative Arts Fund for the purchase of the mural art piece Song of the Salish Sea by Nick and Kendall Mann for up to $10,000.
Second.
So we have a motion as presented and seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Right there. All right, moving on to the next item. I'm glad you went away, Brian. You're right back up. Purchase authorization playground wood chips 2024. And here to present again is our Parks and Rec Director, Brian Smith.
Last time. Okay, so before you tonight is a purchase authorization for playground wood chips. We do inspections about once a year. I had staff go through the playground safety inspector certification to evaluate and test our playgrounds to ensure we are compliant with safety requirements. This last year, a few safety issues were identified, including two major issues. One was a playground that was in disrepair, scheduled for replacement in 2027. We're working on funding for that, but it was in poor enough condition that it was a safety issue, and so we removed that. The other was playground safety surfacing at 5 parks. The purchase is for processed wood. It's a fibrous consistency, randomly sized. Historically, the city was refreshing the playground fill at 3 parks a year until about 4 years ago. Only 1 park was refreshed for about $9,000. That was for materials, not including installation costs. So we've had several years of backlog deferred maintenance where we would have done this for 11 parks that have not been done. And the American Society for Testing Materials, or ASTM, provides international safety standards designed to provide a testing method for surfacing materials that will allow assessment of impact attenuation for playground surfacing, and thus reduce the severity and frequency of fall-related head injuries. We utilize the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission's manual for public playground safety, and in section 2.4 of that handbook, which identifies materials such as engineered wood fiber chips as a appropriate surfacing product. Given that this product can meet the impact attenuation requirements in ASTM F1292, as long as the minimum depths of the material are maintained, as specified in Table 2 of Section 2.5. This notion of solely focuses on the impact attenuation, like I said, to minimize head injuries, which is about 9 inches minimum compressed loose fill surfacing depth with an additional 3 to 6 inches of loose fill for material for drainage. The Commission's made suggestions for commonly used loose fill material, wood mulch, sand, gym mats, shredded recycled rubber mulch. Each of those has a various different depth requirement. So the 5 parks that are in most need of this right now in order of urgency are Ruth Cohen, Red Wing, Fort Nugent, Woodbury, and Windjammer. Fort Nugent is pretty bad. It's about 3rd on our list, but it gets a lot of use in kids there. It'd be great if we find a way to make sure that that one is definitely done this year. We did do a formal bid process. Staff began solicitations for that bid in December. We received 4 bids in January. Denbow Environmental Solutions was the lowest bid. The proposal was for $92,555.17. Funding exists in REIT 2 revenues, which can be used for planning, construction, reconstructing, repair, rehabilitation, or improvement of parks. If approved, this will be included in a future budget amendment that will be brought to council for approval by our deputy city administrator. The REIT 2 funding is very restrictive on what it can be used for, but this is one of those things that it can be used for, and we have sufficient funding in this year to be able to do the item. The motion is to award the bid to Denbow Environmental Solutions for $92,555.17. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Great, thank you. So at this time, I'll turn it over to City Clerk Julie Nestor to verify we've received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No comments have
All
been
right.
received.
And now I will open it up to those with us here this evening to see if there is anyone with us that would like to make public comment on this issue. Hearing none, I will now turn it over to City Council for questions or comments that they may have on this issue. Councilmember Wittgenstein.
Thank you, Mayor, and Brian for presenting on that. Felt like this was kind of coming out of the blue because I wasn't clued into it, I don't think. I haven't been here very long either, so maybe that's part of it. You mentioned that it's been about 4.5 years since this has been picked up the last time and done, and why has it been deferred out? Did it just get forgot about it? Was it not being done?
Yeah, unfortunately.
I mean, it's not on your watch, obviously, but.
Yeah, about 4 years ago, they only did 1 park for some reason. I don't know why that wasn't continued, and then it just stopped. So we have about 3.5 years of not doing it, deferred maintenance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I appreciate that. And then my other piece of this is a couple more questions, but the other one that I wanted to ask is it cost effective? Is it cheaper to go out to outsource this project to be done, or is it, I mean, why don't we do it ourselves, just for clarification?
We've done both in the past. It just takes staff timing and staff resources and a lot of equipment to be able to bring it in and do it. It's possible to do, but like I said, we have the ability to use REIT funding that's pretty restricted on what it can be used for maintenance projects like this. So instead of monopolizing staff for a month to get the work done, we can get it done in a few days.
And in the future, if we go forward with this, are we able to plan a little better? Obviously, with your leadership, we're already ahead of stuff, but I mean, like, so that we're not doing all 5 parks every year,
Yeah, I'm trying to be sensitive to the budget, and I will be gentle, but I have a whole list of deferred maintenance things that need to be addressed. This one is a safety issue, especially with kids, and so that's why we've brought it forward. Since we did the playground inspections, and this came out as one of the things that needed to be addressed, we've tried to move as quick as we can on it to get the bids and bring this to council.
Absolutely, the safety of our kids.
We want to get done before the season and kids start playing at playgrounds.
Oh, absolutely, totally. So thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Councilmember Wittgenstein. And you did mention in your presentation that this was going to be something that was going to be an ongoing line item in the budget for maintenance.
Yeah, and typically it is. So we don't need to go after necessarily a capital improvement. We can fit it within our operational. We spend about a little over $20,000 a year for materials anyway, to do a few parks every year. But we have such a backlog, and some of those have gone where it's completely bare and it's a risk factor. So we just need to catch up, and then we'll get back on a good preventive maintenance schedule.
Great, thanks. Councilmember Hoffmeyer.
Yeah, Brian, I remember back when we were interviewing you for the position and asked you how long, I think I asked you how long you would plan on staying here. And I think the answer was somewhere along the lines of as long as it was fun. You look like you're having a lot of fun.
I am having a lot of fun. We have an amazing staff and a very supportive council. So
it's pretty encouraging to see. The deferred maintenance isn't, I mean, it's something we all know about, something we've talked about quite a bit. So, to see the grant you're applying for, or to see this, something as simple as barking the playground, or, seeing your crew out with the scraper tractor, cutting the lip back on the ball fields. I mean, good things are happening. Keep it up.
Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Hoffmeyer. Councilmember Stuckey.
Yeah, let's chip through a couple questions here. I assume this was something that was ran by the Parks Board, and they're all on board. They didn't have any comments, or?
Yeah. No.
Okay. And this is the most, I would have to imagine this is the most economical option as far as safety goes. I mean, there's other options out there as far as, but this is the most economical.
So the preferred material nowadays is to do a pour-in-place surfacing, mostly because it has an ADA accessibility functionality to it that you don't have with materials like wood chips. While there is allowed things like pea gravel, which some of our parks have, I would never put that into a park. My kids have gotten scraped up on that stuff. So yeah, this is the most economical, but as we redo playgrounds, we'll probably put in for pour-in-place servicing.
Man, pea gravel, I forgot about that. That brings back some memories. I guess my last question is, do we have an idea how much all of our parks have been used? I mean, case in point, I look at Fort Nugent. I was there recently with my kid, and my wife and I were looking, and clearly it needs more chips. But I take something like Ruth Cohen Park, which is near to where I live. I don't think I've ever seen anybody out there. Now, that's just me in one opinion. But do we know how much some of these smaller parks are used? I mean, they have to be safe, but how much do we want to put them if they're not really utilized?
Yeah, no. So that is one of our future capital asks will be to put in trail counters. So we have a good idea of use. That's something that a lot of cities do, so you have good numbers on it. I think I've told you before, I've just gone out to some of our bigger parks like Fort Nugent and Windjammer and just, with a little counter thing just to count people up. And those obviously are very heavily used. As far as the smaller parks, it's hard to say. Until we do something like remove a playground from it, and then people come out of the woodwork, our family uses this every afternoon, why are you taking this away? So I would gauge from just public comment that I've received from neighborhoods that they're probably used a lot more than you would think, pretty regularly. But I would love to be able to give you some numbers, and we have technology we can put in place to be able to provide that.
Yeah, that would be wonderful as we're going through this. I mean, I had to look up where Red Wing Park was. I had honestly no idea, and it's residential. I mean, a lot of times HOAs have my area. We have a park, which is small, and it's HOA. It's not city-run. But it would be nice to know more information on those little parks, if they're actually being utilized. So when they come up for equipment, does it make sense to replace this equipment or not? So
Sounds like we need to do a scavenger hunt, send you to Tie House Park, see if you know where that is.
maybe I do need a scavenger hunt, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Stuckey. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for the presentation, Brian. I guess I'm always going to have a hard time with trying to approve $100,000 that wasn't budgeted. And, you know, and if this is something that we've been inspecting every year, it looks like the original quote that we got was back in August. And so, you know, just a heads up, I personally don't recall this being discussed at the Parks Commission level. I don't remember us having that discussion. So did DNBOW submit a new proposal, or are we working off of what they submitted back in August? Because I don't see a new one in there. And then it said it expired in October, and so is it still a valid bid that they provided?
Yeah, they did a new proposal when we put out last time. We had our parks lead that were getting quotes and working with some providers on estimates. Some of the quantity numbers were incorrect, though, so we had to correct that and go back out.
So, and did I read this correctly, that we have to have somebody on site, we have to have one of our parks employees out there to help them with this process? Is that correct?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, because that's part of what they've got here in the terms and conditions. I believe that was part of our client responsibilities, is provide one staff member to assist the installers. We cannot send two people to the USA.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so is there a benefit
Yes,
to using a Canadian company as opposed to using somebody a little more local? Is it just strictly price? And then how does that price compare if we actually have to have a staffer out there the entire time?
Yeah, I'll have to give you those numbers. They came in as lowest bid,
Uh-huh.
so that was why the selection.
But when we factor in staff time, does that actually make it a lower bid?
I'd have to look at the comparable for it, but I think the next, let me look here, see, so the next bid was Northwest Playground Equipment for $98,000. So I would say, no, even with staff time, they would still be lowest bid.
Okay. Yeah, I just, you know, I'm very pleased with what you're doing and the proactive approach and making sure that our kids are going to be safe. But I just would like, you know, in the future that this is a line item, something that we're prepared for, as opposed to just, ta-da, here it is, and we need this
Absolutely.
money. So
Yeah, we did discuss it in Parks Board. I can send you the meeting minutes on that one.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Hoffmeyer. Any other questions or, oh, sorry, Councilmember Marshall. Sorry. Any other questions or comments at this time from council? No other comments or questions. I apologize, Councilmember Marshall. With that, I will entertain a motion to, yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to award the bid to DNBOW Environmental Solutions for $92,555.17.
Second.
We have a motion as presented and seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And I think I've got a good message from you guys. I'll make sure that we bring any non-budgeted items to a workshop for discussion before bringing it to an agenda item.
All right, moving on, reports and discussion items, we have none. Executive session, we have none. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion we adjourn?
Motion